Good afternoon. I'm Laura Zervos, and I'm a registered dietitian and licensed nutritionist. And I'm so happy to be here with you today in January. And where I'm at, we have the snow on cue for our lesson today, or I should say our class, because it should be very fun, our session. Today, we're going to talk about spicy foods to help us heat up our winter. And typically during this season, I like to do a class with, warming up with hearty stews or soup, something like that. This year, I tried to do something a little bit different because we don't always have the opportunity to talk about these spicy foods. How could we get them into our curriculum, and how could we talk about them, and why should we talk about them? Why should we even waste our time talking about these things? So we're going to make a few things. I like to start with a appetizer or a vegetarian dish. Today, we're going to do a spicy cauliflower. We're also going to do a hummus dish, and we've done them in the past. But we're going to do a little something different today. Then we're also going to make a chicken shawarma. And I'm very excited about our last thing that we're going to prepare. And I'm calling it what should I call it? It's not a dessert necessarily, but it can be. It's something that's sweet, but something that's spicy. So I think I'm going to just wait till the end to tell you a little bit more about that, because I think it's something fun and something different. And I think it's something that we could all try no matter what kind of eating pattern that we're following. I think these all will fit very nicely into the Mediterranean plan, or what I like to call the anti-inflammatory eating pattern, because they are all, we use some olive oil, we have the legumes, we have the vegetables, we have our lean protein, and we're using a lot of anti-inflammatory ingredients. And that's why I chose the spicy theme for today, because all of these products that we're going to be using have anti-inflammatory qualities, and they have other health qualities that are proven, and that are some that are suspected to help. So we'll clarify the difference between those two. But as always, we only have an hour to make 4 items. So we're going to get started right away. If you were looking at social, and all of these recipes will be on my website today, laurazervos.com. And also, if you saw the link or the social media for today's class, I posted that I was going to start already because it's too difficult to, some of these things have to marinate, and we don't have that luxury of a little time hop here. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and I've marinated the chicken, and I did post those ingredients online. So let me get started. I will adjust the camera. We'll talk about what I'm doing. And if you have any questions, just let me know and stop me. Okay, so let me just adjust the camera here. So this is our chicken shawarma. And before class, like I said, we're going to transfer the marinated ingredients to a 13x9 baking dish. And I'm just going to use a fork. I'm going to use some boneless, skinless chicken thighs. And I probably have about 1.5 pounds here. And if you looked at the promotion for today's class, you saw that we have 4 tablespoons of lime juice, 4 tablespoons of olive oil, 4 garlic cloves, and I just sliced them nice and thin, so you'll see some of them right there. And we also have 2 teaspoons of cumin, and that's what gives it this beautiful color, because if I'll show you what actually the turmeric gives us this color, but the cumin and the paprika and cinnamon, they all come together to give us this beautiful color. So let me get these in here. And I did lightly grease this pan, and there's also, like I said, there's olive oil in the marinade. I did trim the size of the visible fat. There may be a little bit on some of these that was just couldn't remove, because I would have removed too much of the meat as well. So that will also keep us nice and juicy there, but mostly, trimmed as much as I could. So let me just get out these last pieces of garlic. So marinate that. You can marinate this for anywhere from an hour to overnight. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this into a 425-degree oven. So excuse me. I'm going to bring our cauliflower over here. Let's talk about turmeric. You see it all the time. You see commercials for it. You see some of the health benefits about it. So let's talk about that. Curcumin is the antioxidant compound that is prevalent in turmeric. Turmeric has many anti-inflammatory qualities. It's good for our brain health, our cardiovascular health. It's good for bone and joint pain, muscular pain. It's a powerful anti-inflammatory. And it's important to note that you could take how much, and we're going to use a lot of different things today that have anti-inflammatory qualities. So I guess the question that I get a lot in practice is getting it through my diet, will that get me enough to have to benefit from the anti-inflammatory properties? And that's a loaded question. So most supplements contain around 250 milligrams of curcumin, and that is like the compound that's in turmeric. So you don't buy curcumin per se, you buy the turmeric, and that's what we put on our foods. And you would need somewhere between 1/2 to 1.5 teaspoons per day to get equivalent to what's in that supplement. And that is considered a safe level, except there are a few contraindications. If you are taking other anti-inflammatory herbal supplements, you would probably want to speak with your registered dietitian or your physician to see if or integrative specialist to see if there's any contraindications there. The other segment of the population that should be careful with taking turmeric supplements are obviously pregnant and lactating women. I would not recommend that. If you do want to do that, you could always speak to your doctor to get cleared, but otherwise it's not recommended. So anyhow, let's talk about that. The 1/2 to 1.5 teaspoons per day, or 250 milligrams per day of the curcumin. If you take that, you'll probably reap the most benefits somewhere like anywhere from 2 to 6 months after doing that. And it depends on a couple of other things too. It depends on what other things, if you're doing if you have inflammatory practices and you're not following all the other principles of an anti-inflammatory pattern, you might not see the benefits of that. So it's important to note that if you were to have some habits that were inflammatory, that it would negate some of these properties. And also it's important to note that supplements are effective because there has been much research done on making this available. Just because, and that's called bioavailability, just because we're eating that turmeric or we are eating some other things like, for example, if we're eating red meat and their iron in red meat, and we're eating some of the vitamins that are present in other fruits, vegetables, whatever, you name it. It depends on how bioavailability it is, the bioavailability, and that means, is our body going to absorb it? We do know that with curcumin, the compound that's in turmeric, that it's most readily absorbed when it's with black pepper, or a compound called pepperine. So that is present in a lot of supplements. You don't necessarily see it in your cooking. Today, we're going to have a lot of black pepper in our cooking, so that will work together. But I think it's important to note that while you don't have to take 1.5 teaspoons orally per day, right? If you get it into your food and if it's present in your foods, if it's part of your pattern, you'll reap the benefit of those anti-inflammatory properties. So while you can take a supplement, you don't have to take the actual powder and ingest it. I wouldn't recommend that. But if you are having a steady diet of that, or a steady pattern of that, if frequently showing up in your 7-day pattern, you would probably be getting those benefits. So let's move on to our next item, and that is going to be a spicy roast cauliflower. We see this a lot in restaurants as an appetizer. Fantastic to have as a side dish or as a main if you wanted to pair it up with some nice beans, some black beans, or maybe a nice hummus dish like we're going to have here for a good vegetarian meal. So what I've done ahead of time is I've washed and patted dry our cauliflower so it roasts, it doesn't steam, it'll get nice and brown. I put it in a colander, patted it dry, and it's in bite-sized pieces. Most of them are bite-sized pieces because we want it to cook evenly. So what we're going to do is I'm going to first add all my spices to my bowl and then stir in the cauliflower. So here I have turmeric. I have the turmeric is this nice brightly colored one. I have a little bit of water in my dish, in my bowl rather, from, let me adjust the camera so you can see I had a little bit of water in there from the cauliflower. And I don't want to add any fluids. So let's start this again. We have a quarter teaspoon of turmeric. I have 1/2 teaspoon of smoked paprika, and we're going to talk about this as well, because there's a big difference between smoked and regular paprika. And paprika also has some excellent anti-inflammatory properties, everything that we're talking about today. Another powerful one. And a lot of these, not only do they have the anti-inflammatory properties, they also have antifungal properties. Multifaceted benefits. I also have some sea salt and some fresh ground black pepper. So there we have it. And we're just going to mix this a little bit before we put in our oil. And then we're just going to add a little bit at a time. And also, sometimes I like to do this in a small tub. Pick it up. Sometimes I have a, you could always put it in a tub with a lid, shake it up and make sure that it's evenly distributed. But so we could see today for class, we'll just keep stirring it around, mixing in small batches to make sure every little piece here gets some spices on it. A little bit more olive oil just to stretch this out. But usually these proportions are enough for a large. That was good. I'm stirring all incorporated here. Very nice. Oh, and it smells wonderful. Yes, so when we're talking about curcumin, heart disease, certain cancers, Alzheimer's, brain health, arthritis, substance. So let's just put that on our pan. You can put, to make it easier cleanup, we could also put a piece of parchment paper on. We've used up everything we have there. You could also put a piece of parchment on here. But I find sometimes it depends what I'm roasting. If I'm roasting an acorn squash or something that really makes for a messy pan, I will use parchment paper. But I want to get this nice and brown here today. So I'm going to make sure that I use just the pan and not the parchment. So let me go ahead and stick this in our 400-degree oven. And it's just so we check on it and make sure that everything's okay. The chicken shouldn't take too long. Like we have small boneless thighs. When they're boneless, it doesn't take as long as having the bone in. We just do a little cleanup here and we'll start on our next item. And we're also going to make sure that that chicken comes to a temperature of an internal temperature of 160 degrees. And I always like to just take the temperature, versus cutting into the chicken where you could risk losing some of the juiciness or touching it, different things. It's always best the most reliable is to check that with a thermometer, a meat thermometer. Remember, that's for chicken. We would like to get that internal temperature to 160, and I'll show you how to check that. So let's get started with our next item today, and it's our hummus. So let me get our hummus over here. And one of our earlier classes when we were making hummus, I think we made a red pepper hummus, a garlic hummus, a plain hummus, and maybe a lemony hummus. Anyhow, what we did ahead of time were we boiled lightly the garbanzo beans and we pulled off that outer husk. And I hate to do that because I feel like some of the fibers in there, but certain brands, if you like a smooth hummus, certain brands of hummus make that step necessary, but some brands do not. And I happen to experiment with another brand, and which has eliminated that step. And if you would like to, you could always reach out to me to find out what that brand is. I don't want to endorse anybody, give anybody the plug without their knowledge. So what we're going to do is let me adjust the camera. We're going to use our food processor here. Let's get this out. And this is one of my favorite go-to snacks of late. And I like to drain the chickpeas. I do not use the fluid. Usually it's okay to have a small amount in there. Sometimes I will put these in a colander. And just go ahead and what I'm going to do with this second can is a little, just to save on our plate as part of the garnish. Whenever you're garnishing, it should always be something that's a little bit about the dish you made. So I'm going to just go ahead and give those a small pulse, and then we're going to add some of our other ingredients. Okay. And I can see that my food processor is going to be a little persnickety today. So we will dump these out. My little bucket comes in handy. We'll take those and dump these out so we can get our blade back in. And I will add some more liquid just to make that initial blending a little bit easier. And don't forget, at this time, you could also add some garlic if you wanted. My blade doesn't want to go on very nicely. It's giving me a little bit of trouble. Let me get more of these out of here. Okay. There we go. Okay. And we put our beans back in. And since we're going to do it this way, we will add our tahini. And tahini is just sesame seed paste, as much or as little as you like. I don't like to overwhelm it with too much because it can change the flavor. A good tablespoon or so will do it. I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil, and we'll add some more as we need to. And I'm also going to add I love lemon in my hummus. So that was the juice of a half a lemon, and we could always add more. I like to add lemon because then I don't have to add salt in the end. So let's see if we can take one thing for this time. Just see how nice it's getting. And I just like to drizzle a little bit of the oil in while this is cooking, while this is blending. I'm going to add a little bit more lemon juice. Let me get my juicer. Get my juicer here. A little bit more lemon. And this is personal preference. I just happen to like it. I think it makes it a nice, gives it a nice flavor. Like I said, then I really don't have to add too much salt. Instead of adding garlic, because a lot of people don't like raw garlic in their hummus, what I like to do is maybe make a little garlic paste and set it on the side. So there we go. It's nice and fluffy. Give that a little taste to see if that's where I would like it. Perfect. Okay. Nice and fluffy and light and lemony. And that's just what I was looking for. And what I like to do is to instead of serve, I mean, pita chips are fine, tortilla chips are fine. But what I was doing over the holidays when my family was really busy back and forth with the mall and with shopping, what I would like to do is make one of these platters in the morning. We come home, we have this beautiful hummus platter with lots of fresh raw vegetables, carrots, celery, scallions, radishes, some green olives, some different things just to have a nice, a really nice high fiber snack when we get home with some fruits and with some vegetables rather. Get this on our, adjust the camera for you again so you can see what I'm doing. So we have our, just gonna use our plate. I mean, you could use a bowl, but lately I've been making these little platters. And you could hear like when I'm actually putting it on the platter, how light and fluffy it is. It's making that nice little airy sound. And I just like to make a little some wells in here. Vegetables, and I have some cucumber here that I sliced, some mini cucumbers that are peeled, I should say, rather. Just those around. Celery. Just a couple, just to give you an example. And then have some of my peppers, colorful peppers. Nice olives. And that's when I throw a few reserve chicken, maybe a couple here and there, just to, it's okay to get a whole one here and there. And let's drizzle a little bit here. On here. It's always nice to get a little, and this I have. It tastes really well. And then you could always, you know, you could do whatever you, whatever spices you like. I'm gonna do a little, since we're talking, little. Also going to do some regular, just ground paprika. And let's see. This one's not equipped with a shaker, so I don't want to get too much on here. There we go. And then you could add some tortilla chips, pita bread, certainly carrots, like I said, radishes, scallions, anything you want. But you have the nice little basis here of a really good snack that you could feel good about. And timer that now, so check the temperature of our chicken and give our cauliflower a little. Again, we're going to use a meat thermometer. Chicken is 160. When this comes out, every time I use it, I make sure that I wipe it down with a alcohol swab. So let me check that chicken real quickly. My and the chicken. Temperature, I had it at a 425-degree oven. That's been about 15 minutes that it's been in the oven, so it doesn't take long. So this would be a great dish to have. And our cauliflower a turn, so that doesn't hurt. Comes out nicely. So that chicken, I'm just going to broil it just for a little bit just to get it crispy. It's already temperature, but I'm just going to get rid of some of that additional liquid, maybe get it brown a little bit on top, and we could talk about what we're going to serve with that. But let's talk about some of the ingredients that we had in there before we make our next item, and then we'll get everything plated. So I also want to talk to you about, we also had in our chicken, our shawarma chicken, and you'll see it in one of our other recipes today, cinnamon. It has also some fantastic anti-inflammatory properties. It has more antioxidants, and most people don't know this. It has more antioxidants than garlic and oregano. So it's excellent. It's also been proven to assist insulin to work better. So it can improve our blood glucose levels, and there is more work that's needed to be done on that, but some trials have shown that that's promising, and that might be something that could be used in the future. Cinnamon also increases antioxidant levels that can decrease inflammation, and it has been shown to decrease markers like C-reactive protein, which is an indicator for inflammation in our body. So there's a lot of beneficial benefits to using cinnamon. Again, can you ingest it? Sure you can. You see, you wouldn't want to do a large amount at a time. It's probably best to put into something like our oatmeal or smoothies versus just ingesting a teaspoon at a time. You wouldn't want to, it is very strong. It could almost has a hot quality at times. And then let me just show you. So cinnamon, and then there are some that, while it can improve the sensitivity to insulin, it's also important to know that there's a few different kinds. The safest kind to use for supplementing, the best one to use for supplementing would be the Ceylon variety. So, and that's the kind that comes out of this. So these are cinnamon sticks, right? So when they take it off and it dries, it curls up. Then this can be ground, and that's what makes our cinnamon. Okay, so you'll see sometimes, and this is nice and fragrant. You can leave this sit out. You can leave this as a decoration, make a room smell good. But it's a very nice spice to use. It can be used in sweet or savory dishes. And it's nice to try to, it's often overlooked in some of these other dishes, but it's a nice addition. And it just adds another dimension of flavor with powerful antioxidant properties. So while you know, having these different things, maybe you don't have curcumin every day, or should I say turmeric every day. But if you have turmeric, cinnamon, paprika, cayenne pepper, some of these other compounds, you're getting a lot of different varieties of anti-inflammatory ingredients. So good to use, good to be a part of our diet. So let me check if that has browned anymore. It was already up to temperature, so I don't need to check the temperature again. But let's go ahead and pull that out and we can get that plated. And also, while I get this out, I'm going to move my cauliflower up, notch on in the oven, just to make sure I get it nice and brown. Little dish for our chicken. Let's move our hummus platter aside. You can see how nice and colorful that is. Okay. You should just smell all of these great flavors coming out of here. So this is our pan, and we're just going to plate it up. You can see some of these in the corner have got nice and brown. Now it's the winter time. I do like to bake these. And in the summer, though, I might just throw these on the grill. I might skewer them and serve them with kebabs. A little bit of a bigger piece, but this just smells so wonderful. And you could see the sauce on the plate is just it has that yellowish color from the turmeric. It just smells wonderful. Okay, and then we could get these little pieces of garlic in there. I'll just set this aside. Right, and then what you might want to do is it's nice to have something cool to dip our chicken into. I have some fresh parsley that I think we handy now. So just a little. Okay. All right, so then we have shawarma. And this would also be, you could eat this with a side of rice. You could put this on a pita bread. So many different ways to enjoy this, but it's just delicious. Let's cut into a piece so you can see how nicely it's done. Here. And you could just see just perfection right there. And that's when you know, yeah, we could have cut this to see, you know, check for doneness, but just checking with the meat thermometer makes it so much more precise, and you will always have a juicy product. So let me set this aside and we'll check on our cauliflower. Just to show you, now let's see, let's check it with a fork to make sure it's done. So the thing about putting this spice mixture, usually, I mean, you could see how it's browned here a little bit firm. Why you want to have all your pieces the same size. I'm just gonna, we have some that are nice and brown. You can see the brownness here. I'm going to put it in for just another minute. And we could talk about the difference with the paprika. We talked about the different, well, if we didn't, I will bring them up now. We talked about smoked paprika and regular paprika. They're pretty much the same product. Paprika comes from a combination of peppers. It could be some cayenne pepper, Aleppo, poblano. It could be a bunch of different peppers make up the spice paprika. And then once those peppers are dried out, they're pulverized, ground to a fine powder. The difference with smoked is when it's in that drying process, it's also dried over hardwood, smoking it. So just like it says, it has that smoky flavor. So when would I use this one? I use this one when I'm making a barbecue sauce. If I'm doing something that I want to impart something smoky, barbecue chicken, pulled pork, something like that, where I want to get maybe even ribs if I want to get that, if I want to impart that flavor. When I'm doing deviled eggs or like the hummus that we just did, some goulash dishes, I like to use the regular paprika. Some people call this the sweet paprika. But both of them are excellent. They could add a lot of flavor. And like I said, this could be hot chili peppers. It could be cayenne peppers, Aleppo, poblano, all these others. It's a different mix. And if you smell it, it's definitely smoky. And you might want to use this in place of using other products that have like a smoke flavor. You see those, some liquid smoke, liquid smoke condiments on the grocery store shelf, and that is to impart that smoke flavor in some of the things that we're making. But you could also use this as well, in addition, obviously, to smoking something over actual hardwood or oak, something like that. But it does add a whole nother dimension when you're trying to do that. So yeah, again, we have the cinnamon that we talked about. We have the turmeric that has the curcumin compounds, paprika. We're going to use cayenne pepper in our next recipe. And also we have cumin. We use the cumin today too. Cumin is excellent. It also has antifungal properties as well. They all have anti-inflammatory properties that are good for our brain health, cardiac health, inflammation, certain cancers, insulin sensitivity. So it's good. Why not use the next time you're cooking, and you're just going back to your basic salt, pepper, maybe garlic, some of those, or buying a spice blend, in the store, like a lemon pepper or something like that. You see various kinds. Why not experiment with your own and get that next level of flavor, get some anti-inflammatory things in there as well, properties, compounds. I think that would be a really nice way to get those into your system without supplementing. I mean, supplementing is great if that's what you choose to do, but we could certainly do this over time, as if it's part of our steady diet. So let me go grab that cauliflower. That should be done now. Okay. Very nice. That's nice. Grab my bowl here and change your view. And let me make sure I'm using. You can see how you'll see this is a lot in appetizers in Mediterranean restaurants. And I still have another half a head of cauliflower. So I'm going to mix up another batch of spices after class and do the other half. But I think it's better you see how nicely we've got that browned. I think it's better to do it in batches to make sure that you have enough spice for your product. Wouldn't want to have cauliflower. We wouldn't want to have some that has a lot of spice and some with a nice yogurt dip. It could be served plain. but again, very nice and just an excellent side dish. So of course, you know, if we were making roast cauliflower any other way, we've done this several times in class. Sometimes we typically do kosher salt and fresh cracked pepper. But this is obviously taking it up a notch. Great way to introduce another flavor to your family and also get those anti-inflammatory properties for your health. So let's work on our next, our final thing that we said I promised is going to be exciting. So let's see what that is. Aside and get my prep for this one. And I think I mentioned it was going to be something different. I didn't know whether to do a dessert. I looked at, was trying out some brownie recipes, but they cook a little bit low. I think prepared class, I tried about the equipment I have, kitchen, my, you know, how best deliver this to you. So I can't have all kinds of different temperature ovens going on, or we'll end up with a big old mess at the end. So today what I wanted to do was do a hot chocolate, and this is a version of a Mexican hot chocolate. So of course you guessed it, anti-inflammatory properties. What are we going to do to spice it up? We're going to add a little bit of, I have our milk here, and let me show you our ingredients and how I prepared them for class. I have my milk, and you could use almond milk, you could use any type, you know, skim, low fat, or whole, depending on what your preferences are. I also put my vanilla in here, so I didn't have a whole lot of room for prep today. And I have a little bit of sugar, and in here I have some cinnamon, and I have some cayenne pepper, and I also have the cocoa powder. And cayenne pepper, you know, obviously this is, let me show you my container of cayenne pepper. I think maybe something is in the air now, maybe one of these peppers. But cayenne pepper, the ground cayenne pepper, also comes from the actual vegetable, the cayenne pepper. It is dried and ground. It has some excellent anti-inflammatory properties. It's very high in vitamin A, of course, because of the color. It has a very good flavor. And a lot of people think that, excuse me, that cayenne, think something is in the air. A lot of people think that cayenne is one of the hottest peppers, but it's actually not. It's one of those mid-range. So it is going to add some heat, but it's not going to be the hottest out there, such like a ghost pepper, for example. It is hotter than a jalapeno. But anyhow, they do protect against inflammation. So let me get this started here. I'm going to get a little saucepan and let me adjust the camera. Excuse me for sniffling, I have all this. But one thing too that I like about using all the peppers that we're using is, you know, maybe you don't have to use as much salt when you're using these. You know, all of these peppers are helpful in digestion. I'm just going to add my milk. And like I said, I just added the vanilla to it because I wanted to, I just wanted to get it started and get another pot dirty, another dish dirty. Okay. So I'm just going to get that heated, and then I will go ahead and add my other substances to that. But anyhow, we're just going to mix it all together. But yes, cayenne pepper has a lot of anti-inflammatory properties, very high in vitamin A. It helps with metabolism. It helps with increasing our digestive enzymes. There's some speculation that both this and the cinnamon could aid in digestion and weight loss because it does get those digestive enzymes stimulated while you're eating or before you're eating in preparation for digestion. So anyhow, all good qualities, all great part of our diet. And I'm going to go ahead and add this. And again, this one too, this is also all of everything that we talked about today. Not only is it good for inflammation, a lot of these are antifungal, antibacteria. You know, we didn't even get into the garlic today because we've talked about that in previous classes. That is a people that may not want to take an antibiotic will load up on those garlic pills at that time for the antibacterial qualities. A lot of these have the antifungal qualities. So just great part of a healthy diet and a healthy gut. All of these are going to help for a healthy microbiome in the gut. And that is that That is just the environment of bacteria that we have in our gut that helps keep us healthy. And remember, the more diverse it is, the healthier we are, and the better off we are to fight off infection. So I'm just going to go ahead and stir this in. And I am pepper too. I don't know if you've ever tried it, but it's also a great addition to, I like to experiment in the summertime with making tea. I love to drink unsweetened tea. So what I do is I flavor it with other things like lavender, with mint. I also put a little, when I'm making it right before I put it in the refrigerator, I just sprinkle with little cayenne pepper. Really changes it. It just adds a whole new level. It doesn't make it hot. It just gives it that another dimension of flavor. And in that pinch, of course, I'm not going to get anti-inflammatory properties from just a pinch, but it's good to note that it can be used in small, small quantities like that. And I'm also going to add a little bit of sugar as well. And this is, you could certainly kick this up a notch with other things. It's just a basic hot chocolate, but we do have the cayenne pepper in there, and we do have the cinnamon in there that just adds another, level of hotness. And I don't know, we're talking about heat today. Sometimes you don't think about cinnamon and heat, but it can make things very spicy. So let's check on this. And, we're talking about, I just thought it would be fun to spice up winter, but it's also, good to note while winter is, we typically go into maybe that hibernation mode, but these things will certainly help us kick up our metabolism while we may have decreased our activity. So it's one of those things that, it has a thermogenic effect. So again, one day of this is not going to make a difference, but a steady dose of this in your meal pattern would certainly make a difference over time. That's important to note. So let's just, and we just want to, of course, you want to make sure. I like to just bring it to a slight simmer. I don't want to boil it, but just to make sure that everything is dissolved. And let me get some of our and we'll just adjust this so you could see what we're going to do here. We have our favorite cup, and I just put the sugar and the cocoa in there too, again, just to try to save some space with my prep dishes. And we're just in here. Oh my gosh, this smells so good. Okay. And we're just going to add some whipped cream. And you got it. We're going to put just a little dash of our cayenne on here. I don't want to get too much there. Look how pretty that looks. Look how pretty. It's so fine. And then we could take it up even another notch and put our cinnamon stick in there, and there it goes. Just set it right on top. And I'm so excited to try this. Oh, it has such a great smell. It really does. So anyhow, just something different to have, something different than a coffee, something different than to have just a plain hot chocolate. And I always like to make look how simple it was. We made these, yes, we did prep our chicken and I had everything measured for us, but it doesn't take long to make things from scratch and to use some things. I had most of these things in my pantry. If you have all of your spices, and remember, some of these spices, I do have large quantities because we go through a large amount of cinnamon in my family. So this will be gone within the month. Garlic too. Cayenne pepper, this probably takes me a while to finish. I think I had a recipe where I made a large quantity. I used quite a bit of it. But anyhow, you don't want to have too large a quantity of this. This is another thing that we go through a lot of it, the crushed red peppers. But you know, a good quantity is this for some of our spices to have on hand. And remember, you want to keep them. I like to put things in a glass jar with a lid, put them in my pantry where it's dark, it's dry, there's no moisture in there. You used to see back in a couple decades ago, there was always a spice rack near the oven. Well, sometimes they would tend to get hot, they would get moist, they would get cool off, and that would of course decrease their shelf life and make them less potent. So it's important to buy in the quantity that you need and the quantity that you'll go through with just a short time. You don't want to have too much left over. All important to remember. But remember, I hope that the takeaway is that there's a lot of anti-inflammatory properties and compounds in some of the things that we have in our cupboard that we could use all the time, that could be part of our pattern. Remember, it's that 7-day pattern. It's no one day is going to make or break us of any food or activity. So you want to make sure to try to do small things to incorporate anti-inflammatory foods and herbs and spices and drinks into our daily pattern. So we have something, so it builds up over time. And that's how you reap the benefits. Of course, if you can't do that, well, where's my supplement here? I know I have a turmeric supplement and it's over there, but anyhow, 250 milligrams of turmeric would be the recommended dose, not indicated for pregnant or lactating women. And you want to check on that no matter what you're doing. As far as supplementation, you always want to have somebody review those for you, whether it's your registered dietitian or your physician, to make sure that you don't have any interactions, because you could have a reaction with some of the supplements and some of the prescription drugs. Just like some prescription drugs can interact with other prescription drugs, supplements can interact with each other as well. So you wouldn't want to experience any adverse effects. Let me put this aside and then we'll talk about everything. I'll pull all of our, I have to tell you, this hot chocolate smells amazing. It's right after class, that's going to be my treat. But yeah, that's a nice little addition. That's something too that you could make if you're having company. And maybe you don't want to have a heavy dessert, but you would have an after dinner drink. And that could certainly be served without alcohol. It's a nice substitute for that. And it's a little bit different than just a coffee or a hot chocolate. So let's look at this. We have our hummus plate. We have our cauliflower. So you could see how, see if I can get everything together. Actually, we can't. So taking up all the room. There we go. So anyhow, we have a nice something for your guests to munch on, and you could kick that up with some cayenne pepper, some red pepper. And then we have our spicy cauliflower, and then we have the chicken shawarma. All of them have on, you know, and it's okay to have the cauliflower with the chicken shawarma. It doesn't have to be vastly different. I don't think it would be too overwhelming. This could also be served as an appetizer. And this, I mean, you could even dip your cauliflower into our yogurt dip as well as the chicken, just as a contrast and flavor. It is something cool, just like we added the little bit of whipped cream to our chocolate there. So I hope you enjoyed today's class. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. If you have any questions about any of the supplements that we talked about today, or supplement form versus eating them, you know, in your food, or actually ingesting a whole teaspoon of turmeric, you could always ask me those questions and how, you know, other ways that you might want to get it versus doing things like that. And again, all of these recipes will be on my website. I hope you enjoyed today's class. Remember to have anti-inflammatory foods and spices and lean proteins and legumes and fruits, 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day, to stay on the path to wellness. And I hope you have a happy and healthy start of your year. And I hope you stay warm with these spicy foods. Thanks so much and have a fabulous day.